Hi, I'm a 41-year-old father of two from Melbourne, Australia, and this channel is my attempt to prove that it's never too late to learn a second language. I recently returned from 2 weeks in Dalian, in the northeast part of China, where my wife is from, and I was frustrated by my inability to communicate with her family. I'm not a complete beginner. Around 9 years ago, I passed my HSK2 exam, which is a fairly beginning stage, but I do have some background. I can probably read around 400 Chinese characters and write maybe 250 of them. My listening is not terrible. I can understand a reasonable amount of what my wife is saying, but my speaking ability is very poor. I mean, my tones and pronunciation is okay, but I just have very limited fluency, and that's something I'm really hoping to improve. My previous attempts at learning Mandarin failed not because I was inherently bad at it, but I was just too busy. 2 boys, full-time job, various other commitments. It's very difficult, and I'm hoping that by posting these videos, it will keep me honest. A kind of enforcement device. I have very limited time, so a lot of the time that I will be able to devote to language study will be during my commute to work. I have half an hour each way on the train, 3 to 4 days a week. So I'm going to use that time primarily on 3 activities. The first of these is comprehensible input. I'm a big believer in Stephen Krashen's hypothesis that the only way we acquire language is when we hear something and understand it. And I've noticed there's been a huge improvement in the variety and extent of the amount of comprehensible input material here on YouTube. So I'm going to be taking full advantage of that and listening to as much of it as possible on the train. The second thing I'll be doing is using spaced repetition. And I'll be using a combination of scritter for writing Chinese characters and Anki for going through relevant vocabulary and sentence structures. I like Skritter's interface for learning stroke order, but I prefer Anki's kind of more detailed control that it gives you over spaced repetition. So I'll be using a combination of the two. The third tool I'll be utilizing is graded readers. I have accumulated a whole bunch of them over the years, and I can get through 250 to 300 word graded readers fairly quickly, but I hope to be able to advance to more difficult and therefore more interesting ones over the coming months. I'll be focusing on input and avoiding output for the first few months, just because that's what the research suggests is most effective. I'll definitely have opportunities to practice speaking later in the year when my mother-in-law visits from China, but until then, I'm really going to immerse myself as much as possible in material, starting with the comprehensible, easier materials and hopefully mixing in some native content, TV shows, things like that. I hope that my journey inspires you to pursue your own language learning interests and proves that it's never too late to begin, and indeed never too late to attain some degree of fluency. So I'd be so grateful if you would subscribe to this channel and support me in my journey. Catch you in the next video.